YouTube, Brian Phillips. We're gonna open this box. You've already seen it fly because we published that part first. And this is the Unbox build radio setup. Should be pretty easy on the radio setup. And if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, this is the format we always like to do. We open it up, we show it start to finish, so you know exactly what you're getting into. If you're brand new to the hobby, you're in a perfect spot. We're gonna get you flying. Oh yeah, it's the V2 1220 millimeter Ranger. Now you'll notice this is red. If you've ever watched the channel before, we did a yellow one and a ready to fly a long time ago. And I think we actually added flaps or something on it. So if you want to see more about it, check out the playlist or head over to brianphillipsrc.com, also known as bprc.me. That's our short link for it. And that takes you to our domain. And you can see this very plane right there, except it happens to be a V1. And if your thing is not yellow or orange, red, whatever color you want to call it, you can also do green, which is pretty cool. And by the way, there is a Ranger that is 1700 millimeters, and it is green, and it is phenomenal. So as you advance through the ranks and you get away from the ready to flies and you want to go into something that's plug and fly where you provide your own receiver, your own battery, and you've got your own transmitter, of course, we'll help you set that up too. Okay, but this one's gonna be super easy. This is beginner plane. It is designed for people who need some help. It uses a system called Reflex V2. It's kind of interesting. I thought that'd be V3 by now, but it's a simple assembly. It's stable and it's rigid. That's what they claim. We're gonna test those claims. And if you wanna see what it is in Chinese, just read this.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously these products are made in China. We review a lot of them. And China has a very, very interesting reputation. Look, first problem, nose cone spun. Is it broke? No, it's just popped off. FMS, if you're watching.
That's weird.
We're gonna have to pop that back on. No big deal, we'll show you exactly what it's like. That's why we have Unbox build radio setup videos. At first, when we started doing them, I thought, what a waste of time. But the truth is, people need help. We're here to help on Brian Phillips RC. And we're gonna do exactly that.
There's a lot of manuals.
Okay, manual number 1, manual number 2, manual number 3, a V3,
yeah.
Marketing department. Okay, so you'll also notice that this box is very short.
Yep.
And this plane is long. 1220 millimeters is about 1.25 meters. Obviously, if it's 12.25, it'd be 1.25 meters. And a meter is approximately 3 feet, guys. So it's gonna be pretty big. And we're gonna show you exactly what it takes to get this thing out of the box and into the air. So without further ado, we're gonna do it. If you guys are brand new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you click the bell for notifications because we do lots of content. Carbon fiber,
okay.
Beautiful. Charger, this style charger, AC outlet goes in here, cell 1, cell 2, cell 3. So you can do 2-cell or 3-cell. With the balance port charger, okay, we'll come back with the rest of the AC stuff. And it looks like this one's been repackaged, so we probably got a sample. Okay, as you can see here, yours is not gonna be pre-stressed, mine was evidently. And you can see no inboard flaps just quite yet, and our wire happens to be popped out. I wouldn't probably freak out about details like that because this might be an early sample that's been repacked. The reason we have early samples is because this is, after all, an early release, even though they've released to the general public everything.
A few days ago.
So not really sure exactly what an early release is for FMS, but that's the way they do it. So if you guys are brand new to the channel, you'll understand why that's a little bit weird. Because usually early means actually early. AC cable does come with this. Now, one thing that's nice about when China makes a ready-to-fly plane is they can break all the rules about remote ID. Because what is the US government gonna do about it? Absolutely nothing.
Give them a cookie.
So we'll just stick this in the hole. This is called the B3 charger. I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it means 3 cells. We're gonna plug this in, and look at this. You can use this even for another battery, so long it is the correct cell count. Look, this battery I just pulled out, it's an Arrows pack. Wow, amazing, watch this. Booyah, in the hole, ready to go. Red means it's charging, green means it's done. A little bit less sophisticated than some of your average products. This is a USB-A to USB-C, show them up close. You won't need that because you don't need to reprogram your receiver, which is it. It's actually not the receiver, but it's more the Reflex V3, even though it says 2 on the box.
Maybe.
Now, I think when I pulled this out, the cover came off. So 4 AA's. Looks like Fly Sky. And yeah, I have no thumbs.
No thumbs.
That's very weird.
Really interesting.
It comes in a bag separately. Why would you have that bag installed? I'll tell you why, because it's a little bit too wide for the storage vessel. 1300 milliamp 3S and then a nut and bolt sack. So 1300 3S, what does that mean, guys? If you don't know what 3S means, it means 3 cells in series. 3 in series, not 3 cells, because we also have C ratings, which speak to the speed with which you can discharge a pack and the speed with which you can charge it. This is the discharge rating in some sort of pseudo whatever marketing scale. It means nothing. Don't hold your breath, because basically the more Chinese they get, the higher the C rating they get. That's sort of a facetious statement. The higher the C rating, generally the more expensive. This is a 50C pack. It costs like a lot. This is a 25C pack, which means it's a little bit inferior to a 50C. A 50C would be inferior to 120C, and so on and so forth. The lower the C, the slower it discharges. The only time a low C battery is good is when it's in a transmitter combination, because you're going to have a slow draw, okay? You can generally put a higher C pack in a plane that calls for a lower C. So if this plane called for a 15C pack, 25C would be suitable. But so would 50, so would 100, so would 120, so would 75. It just depends on what you want to buy, because the higher C's are usually more expensive, AKA marketing gimmick.
But if it calls for a higher C, you probably shouldn't use.
No, if it calls for a higher C, do
C.
not use a lower C. It's not a, you probably shouldn't.
It's a
don't.
Don't.
If this calls for a 50C pack and you use a 25C pack, your battery will come out looking like an apple ready to blow up. Okay? How do you charge this? Well, 2 ways. You can use a provided charger. This has 4 pins. And you're like, well, but Brian, I don't even know what the heck that thing is. I just see the bigger one and that looks like what goes in the plane. Yes, this is called the discharge lead. It's got a little bit bigger cables. These come and they're actually parallel to the red and black wires here. But guess what? This individually allows you to look at one cell, the second cell, or the third cell. And we can also balance charge them by taking and forcing some juice into each of those pins separately. And guess what? I can use a totally unrelated tool to help prove this theory. Okay, so we're gonna stick this into our XBC battery checker. We have links to all of the supplies we use. This is one of them. As you can see, it is supposedly about 37% at 3.8 volts. That's the nominal charge level for storage in most cases on a LiPo. This is a lithium polymer pack. It's also called a soft pack. This is a soft pack because it's kind of soft. This is a hard pack because it's not soft and it's got a harder plastic case around it. It's a little better for beating up when you're driving cars, things like that. Lots to learn about batteries. You probably won't have this many if you're brand new to the game, okay? We're gonna teach you as you go, because you don't need to have a smart battery to do this. And you're like, what's a smart battery? This has a dumb balance lead. This has a circuit inside of it that balances it automatically. And so you only need the main discharge lead and one data port that uses this as the common for ground, okay? We'll go into way more detail if we need to at some point, but for now, this is charging. So later on, we can plug this in and see what it is. Or while you're ordering your plane, you might consider getting one of these Predator, which is an FMS brand, ESCs, motors, servos, and the like. They also make this little voltage tester, okay? So you can unplug your power and you can stick this in. The negative is marked back here, negative, 1S, 2S, 3S, 4S, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? So it goes all the way through 8S. You plug it in, it says 3 cells, and it shows the total nominal voltage of 11.5. Cell number 1 is at 3.82. It kind of seems a little bit like what we saw here, except you see it one at a time. And then cell 3 is at 3.83. Now, you can also press this button. You can set where you want it to alarm. And normally when I'm flying a prop-based plane, I would go to 3.3. If I'm flying an EDF, I'd go to like 3.6, 3.7, maybe 3.8, depending on how hard it pulls. Okay, plugging this back into the charger. And it starts charging. Now, if you want to buy your own charger, my suggestion is to get the S2200. You have 2 200-watt chargers, but just keep in mind, you're going to have some form of an adapter to go from EC3 or IC3 over to XT60 because you can't plug the main discharge lead into this charger, okay? Doesn't fit, even though it has an IC5, which is bigger, and an IC3, okay? So, but if you have an adapter, which comes in many different flavors, one of which is like this, another of which is kind of like this, where it's just kind of all built in together. Just depends on what you need in your plane most of the time. Plug that in, it shows you your nominal voltage of 11.4 volts. Then you plug this thing in to your balance lead. Then you press play, and when you press play, you're gonna set up your charge. It's at 20 amps, that's a little too fast for this. This is 1300 milliamp hours, so you would go to about 1.3, would give you 1C. Remember we were talking about C's earlier? Now look at this. It says, high performance lithium polymer battery, 11.1 volts. Okay, so it doesn't tell us the C rating, so you could figure on about 1C is almost always going to be totally safe. And in this case, my rule of thumb is if I see a 25 C pack, I usually say about 2.5 times C rating would be similar. But if you go into the higher quality, more expensive packs, here's an example of one that doesn't show it, okay? Here's an example of one that does show it, and this one's seen better days as well. Yep, it doesn't show it either. So here's an example of one that does. Does this say? Ah, look. C5, see this? 5C, 25 amps. So you can take 5,000 milliamp hours, which is 5 amp hours. So milli means 1,000th. 5 amp hours times 5 is 25 amps max speed for charging, okay? That's very fast, okay? But it's a big battery, and there's 6 cells on that particular pack. We have 3 1,300 milliamps each. The 1,300 milliamps speaks to the amount of capacity in each of these little individual cells. This is 5,000, so you have 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. If you get a bigger number here, that means you get a little bit more duration of discharge. And if you have a bigger number here, 6S, that means you have a little bit more in series. So every one of these at charge is 4.2 volts. So you add those up, 4.2 plus 4.2. So on a 2S, it'd be about 8.4 volts. If you have a 3S, it'd be about 12 point something, okay? And so on and so forth, until you get to the point where you're up to 6S batteries and so on and so forth. But you get the idea. Remember, brand new to the hobby, you're in the right place. We'll help translate the lingo, not necessarily the Chinese, okay? All right, so we got the other wing. Looks pretty good. Now, something about the Ranger, it's got this cool wingtip, which is kind of neat. They had wingtips like that on the plane that we just landed right there about 3 weeks ago. It was super cool. And he had actually an extra 1.5 feet on the wing. So really neat. We're building a full-scale airstrip out there in case you guys are wondering. If you go and watch other YouTube channels, they're not building runways in their backyard. I promise you, because I don't know anybody else who's doing it. So if they are, then kudos to them, and I would like to follow their channel too, and maybe we can compare notes. So you unplug this or untape it and out comes the lead. Now this is a Servo. It is a 9-gram digital. 9 grams speaks to the weight of this product. 9 gram is a very standard size. They're sized. Sometimes when they're metal gear, they'll be a 9 gram, but they're actually more like 13 or 15 grams because the metal gear is going to weigh more than a plastic gear. These ones are probably plastic geared servos. And you can usually tell if you look at the model number, it says FMS. Can you read those letters?
It has a P at the end, so it would be plastic.
P would be plastic.
Yeah.
Now, make no mistake, Metal Gear servos sometimes still have plastic gears in the gear set. So it doesn't always mean as much as you think. But generally speaking, Metal Gear servos are heavier, better, longer lasting, and generally they require a little bit more juice because they are running a heavier load. But the load usually doesn't come from the servo itself, but rather from the control surface. So the control surface really is what dictates how much load electrically ends up on your BEC, a battery eliminator circuit. And you're like, Brian, what is all this lingo? I'm so confused. I used to fly gassers. We'll get you up to speed. That's why we say things like BEC, because if you didn't know what it meant, who would help you? Brian Phillips, RC. Squishy tires. It's a freaking miracle. FMS gave us squishy tires. Springy gear, aluminum, should be totally strong enough. And the fuse, as you can see, as you're unpacking this, ooh, there's my backup battery.
Oh, good.
Back of the battery tray. Okay, so I'm just gonna lift this out. Very good. So a BEC is a battery eliminator circuit. It's part of an electronic speed control, which is not either of these things. It's what the battery goes into, which is up here. And it looks like it's probably under there. And I'm just looking to see, if you look really close in that hole, there is an ESC in there, an electronic speed control. That runs the motor that spins the prop in this case. But it also has a component called a BEC, which sends power back to the receiver. In this case, this is a receiver. It's not spatially aware. That is the Reflex V3. It is spatially aware, and it's going to help to stabilize your aircraft, and we'll talk more about that later. But now that I have my spinner out here, I just want to point something out. If you're brand new to the hobby and you don't want to cut your hands, you're not sure what you're doing, remember, all you have to do is take that off, untighten it, and you're good to go. But for now, I'm going to put that on just so you can see what it would look like. And also your 1300 milliamp battery is going to go in here. We have Velcro strap. And then there's also some provided Velcro. Now you can use the provided Velcro with the provided battery and you'd be totally fine. And also I just want to mention, I haven't forgotten that I put it on my own charger. The reason I did that is because we're up against some lighting issues and I want to get this thing charged quick. But not so quick that we can't talk about what needs to be done. Shelf liner, look at this. Premium charger, by the way, look. You can see how much it's done. You can see how much is left. You can also use the up and down arrows to see more data about each of the cells. You can see it all at the same time, internal resistance and the sort. Now, if this is a smart battery, there'd be even more. But that doesn't mean you need it, and you don't have to start that way. You might get that after 2 or 3 planes. It is a little bit expensive, and it's one of those things you don't want to have to buy right away. That's why we like ready-to-fly packages for people that are brand new to the hobby, okay? This is called shelf liner. Ordinarily, it is used to line shelves, strangely enough. And what that does is it stops crap from sliding around when you slam the drawers. If you have kids, you understand that's the only way they work.
The kids or the drawers?
The drawers. So I stick it on here and I cut it out. It is literally that simple, and then this stuff sticks and it won't let stuff slide, but it's not sticky and it doesn't have residue. That's why we went with this beautiful stuff. We have links to shelf liners in our supply. We used to use this stuff and it works really good too, but the problem is the adhesive would poop through these little bits, okay? And so we've gotten away from using that. This stuff works equally as good and it's a little bit less messy. So just a pair of scissors can make that happen. Not included in your ready to fly. Also, this voltage alarm, you should buy one when you're buying. And one other thing you should buy while you're buying, FMS makes some tremendous China glue. And if you don't know what China glue is, this is what it looks like. It comes out of the tube and it looks like rubber cement that you had when you were a kid, if you're my age, okay? Rubber cement, like the stuff you would glue and then you'd roll up and make boogers with it. Check this out. Oh no, I got glue on me. I'm going to die because it's CA. No, it's China glue. Look at this, it's gone, okay? That's why I like China glue. It's beautiful, it's clear, it works good. The competitive offering is just a little bit more expensive, but you get a little bit more in it. It's called foam to foam. There's also other brands, but those are the 2 that we usually talk about because we work with these companies and there's nothing better or worse about either one, but the FMS China glue is very nice. Okay, so getting back to the point, we got to stick this Velcro back in the plane. If you guys are following along and it looks like I'm jumping around, that's because when you build a plane, there's a little bit of jumping that happens. You're going to be going back and forth until you get to the point where the plane is done and in the air. We're going to take every single step and show you exactly what to do, or at least what we would do. This is very weird. Horizontal stabilizer just about blended into the back of the box.
Oh.
Okay, horizontal stabilizer and elevator, no linkage installed. We'll have to do that when we put this together. Okay, so now I'm going to take the tail section out. It looks like the unfortunate victim of a bad landing. Okay, very good. By the way, if you're reluctant to learn to fly because you think it's hard to fly, don't worry, you're right. It is hard. We'll teach you how to make it less hard. That sounded bad. But as you can see, this plane is purpose designed for beginners. That's why it has such an ugly nose gear and it is rock hard. So soft, hard, I guess somebody wasn't paying attention in that meeting. Okay. All right, the next step, you might want to have a plane stand. If you don't have a plane stand, this is what a plane stand looks like. It's made of foam, it's cheap, it's like 20 bucks. It's an investment your wife will enjoy much better than cutting a hole in her favorite blanket with a P51. Not that I did that or anything.
No, never.
So building this plane will be easy, but it looks like Mother Nature is gonna give us a fat middle finger right now because the sun is over the horizon, okay? So we're gonna do the best we can and see if we can get this thing done to fly in the beautiful golden hour. Golden hour is super short as we get closer and closer to fall and then subsequently to winter. This goes into the bottom. This goes in the bottom too. And you can see it's keyed, so it only drops one way. Very nice. And I'm gonna stick this on my plane stand so I can show exactly how this works. You see how this drops in there? And then those holes all line up, which is really nice. And then guess what? Look at this. We got a bag of tricks right there.
That's not bad.
Not bad, but there's still a lot of little components. And if you're brand new to the hobby, you might not know how to do this. Now, real quick, I just wanna point out the fact that it does come with this tool. This tool is probably a 1.5 millimeter drive, and I'm going to confirm that right now. And the camera crew is gonna show you in the book exactly where to figure out which screw to use for which apparatus, meaning the horizontal stabilizer. The body has to be screwed together. And then of course, on the landing gear,
10.
we need these first, okay?
Are they all the same size?
No.
Oh, the longer ones go in the back.
Okay.
And then
so
the
guys,
short ones
look,
go in the front.
there's long here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's short, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's actually a total of 5 here. They are 2 millimeters. So you can use the provided tool. I'm not going to because I use these. I love them. If you want supplies, check our supplies link. So the long ones go on the fuse halves.
No, it goes in the...
Megan, the long ones go in the fuse halves, and then the shorter ones go in the landing gear.
Okay, that's not how it looks in the picture.
Okay, is that true?
Yeah, it looks like you put the white thing in first, and then it goes through all of it together
Oh, really?
as one assembly.
Why do they have these? Why do they have these? Because look, it shows it pushing in, and then it shows,
But then it just shows this. And
this
then,
says 10, and this says 16. So
Yep.
2 10s and 2 16s. Okay, so in that case, this drops down, which seems a little bit strange to me, and the 2 10s must go here. Is that right?
Yes.
And the 2 16s go in the back, which is the wider portion. Okay. So that is strange that they would actually countersink those holes.
Right.
And by the way, if that noise bothers you when you're tightening your screws, you can put a little Dawn dish detergent or something similar. Even dry wax soap you can screw onto the threads and it will stop them from making that noise. Remember, 2 millimeters here is the drive size. Okay, very good. Now we're gonna take the long ones, which seems totally wrong because I don't understand why we need long ones there, but I guess we do. So we're gonna just run that, and then this will complete the landing gear assembly. You guys see how easy this is because this is a beginner plane. So if you guys are brand new to the hobby and you're like, but I like jets and I want EDFs. And by the way, look at this. What do you think that's for, camera crew?
Oh, floats.
Floats,
That's
you can
right.
buy floats. The floats are not included with this plane by
They are not.
default. They're not super expensive though, so you may enjoy them at some point, but it did not include the clips in that bag at least. And it didn't come in this bag either, which is where our thumb knobs are. And then the bind plug. A bind plug is how you short ground to signal on bind. Where's bind? I don't see bind on there. Do you?
Is it the very first one? I can't read the
Yeah, it says B.
slash something.
I don't know. That's probably bind. But anyway, that's what happens is it shorts ground to signal, and then that forces this thing into bind mode where it is looking actively to connect to the transmitter. There is a book that teaches you how to do that, but because they come bound, we're not going to talk about it. Binding is a process that you'll have to do if you do a bind and fly plane. But if you do a plug and fly plane, then you will also have to do it because you have to install a receiver. So we'll talk about that in other planes, okay? This is the linkage that goes out to the rudder, it looks like. I'm not sure why it's not actually fixed yet. And then there are a couple of wires, or at least one wire in here. So I'm gonna pull that wire out. Yep, just one wire. It says elevator on it. The elevator servo is back here already. So we need to eventually affix this onto the plane, and we need to eventually put the horizontal stabilizer on, but I think it's gonna be easier to mount this and then mount this, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. So as you can see, the wire goes through. Now watch this, I'm gonna push that back, and then I'm gonna do a trick. I'm gonna just hold this. I don't have to mount that, it's already mounted. And I'm gonna take and push this in with one of the wires very carefully, and then that forces the wire through. Watch. See that hole? Watch this. Booyah. Right in the hole. Then I'm gonna line up this black thing and just stuff it in. Boom, right there.
Nice.
Now, hopefully I can do this without too much trouble. I need the long ones for this. What does it say, 16 or 10? Those are 10,
No,
so
it's
they're
actually
short.
the short ones.
Okay, so you said earlier I needed short, so I guess you said I needed long here, so I was assuming you're gonna be right. Those are the shorter screws, and it lined up really nice. If you guys have seen the build on that Cessna 182, absolutely delectable plane. You will not have any problem with it if you get it. And by the way, I would say it's probably not as beginner as this, but it's definitely on the beginner side of things if you want it to be. That being said, I am not a beginner and I love that plane. I'm pushing on the nose cone and back here where I can get purchase. I'm rolling back a little bit until I get purchase, and then it goes. But you want to be careful. If you push hard, you'll bend stuff. Then there's another one right here. Remember, the carbon fiber rod that goes between these two apparatus is actually what holds the tail fixture on. You're just keeping it fixed tight up against the fuse, this being the tail section. Now I'm rotating my hand like this as I press against the cabinet or the countertop, and this one already lined up. So it was super easy.
Good.
And it's tight. Okay, so very easy. And yes, this is flopping all over the place, which is annoying, and I would like to see that be secured better. Also, show the people in there, there is a special warning label.
Oh, yes.
The warning label is going to get cut off right now because they get in the way, and I am intelligent enough not to cut my fingers plugging in the battery. But I just want to warn you guys, if you're brand new to the hobby and you haven't developed the good habits of throttle cut and throttle stick management, you may consider leaving that warning plug on there. Now also, let's talk about that wire. You remember that wire I forced through? Oh, look, right there. There it is, right? Because look, I'm moving it right there. So I'm just gonna pull that out right there, and look, now it's free. And I have the linkage. Show the people the linkage, moving back and forth, wonderful, right? This battery lead needs to be pulled up here, okay? And that's gonna clear out most of the cabinet up here, but there is one more connection. So that is gonna go to the rudder. And you're probably thinking, why are there so many things on there? Well, there's really only two. There's one that goes, and by the way, that wire's in a terrible spot. Look at that. That wire is so vulnerable to attack from the movement of the rudder. So we'll come back to that in a minute, guys. But these are gonna be how we mount the wing. So I'll put these over here, one clip, two clips. Those things are going to pass through this little plastic doohickey. Okay, it goes like that, and then you spin it like that until it's squared, okay? You can see it just turns this little hook, okay? Also, that'll keep it from falling out, which is kind of handy. So we'll just slide those in right now and then give it a turn. It's got a diagram right here with an arrow, and that'll take care of that part. We'll come back to that in a minute. And as you can see, this build is going really quick. We started with everything in the box, and now we're only about, what, 15, 20 minutes into this, and we're almost done. So the next thing we have to do is, while we don't have this fully assembled, it's gonna be a lot easier to mount this and get this set, okay? This is the rudder linkage, and so we're just gonna get that, plugged into the actual mechanical connection point here. Now, I don't know what size we need, but they did not provide a screwdriver for that, so that's probably gonna be a 1.5 millimeters. As you can see here, we're using 2, now we're gonna go down to 1.5. 1.5 is gonna let us get this grub screw adjusted out. Yep, that's correct. Also, while I've got this screwdriver in here, I'm gonna take this wire and push that around. Is
that okay?
That's fine. See what I just did, guys? That's gonna potentially save your plane. You don't want that wire getting hit. Now, I'm grabbing back here to move this linkage. I'm just gonna turn this and see if I can spin. Nope, it doesn't turn the bushing. This thing down here. So there's tools you can use, but I'm gonna use what we have, which is this rod. See if I can get in there from the side. Nope, can't. So what I'll do is I'll go in here from the front, and I'll reach in here, and all I need to do is just recenter this just a little bit. See, all I'm trying to do is just press it so it turns. You see how it's turning? Okay, now I'm gonna pull this out and just turn it a little bit more if I can get it to turn. If you can't get it to turn, you may have to stick your fingers in there and turn it by hand. And just remember, the hard part is I'm using my index finger and blocking the camera. You see how that shot through now? Okay. And I apologize, guys, I don't like to cover the work. Camera crew's coming around. Now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna slide back this little rubber. It's gonna go back, and then this thing is gonna pop open. And then we're gonna look at the drawing and it's gonna tell us which hole to stick it in, which is probably the outside hole. Does it say? Does it say? Here's the float installation if you guys are curious.
Should be that page.
Right there. Okay, so which one? Does it say?
They're labeled ABC. What?
What does that tell me? No, it's telling you the order. Yeah, that's not it.
No.
There it is. Okay, so rudder is going to the outside, elevator is going to the outside, ailerons is, this is the horn. This is the thing that's on the control surface. This is the thing that's on the servo. So in your case, you can do more control or less control, but this is what they want by default. So we're gonna go back over here. This is gonna come out and it's gonna go to the outside hole, which is gonna give you the least amount of movement of the 3 holes. And I don't like that being that direction. I'm actually gonna go the other direction because of the nature of the angle with which this exits the fuselage. Then I'm gonna push this rubber thingy, which is fuel hose, back out. Now watch this. Go back around here. See, when I move the rudder now moves the linkage. So as long as our front steerable nose gear is square and the servos are being driven straight, that's not square, by the way. You see my reflex? It's like at an angle.
Yeah,
that's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Do you suppose they did it for a reason?
I guarantee you it's gonna be a problem.
I doubt, I mean, I would assume you're right.
It's gonna be a problem, but if yours comes like this and you get it like this, you may have to straighten it. It's double-sided tape, break it off, square it. If you don't square it, you might not have a problem, but I'm guessing you will. That being said, the yaw axis doesn't actually correct for auto leveling, whereas the roll axis does. The problem is if your device, this is the square plane pointed straight at the nose, your tail is straight behind me. If this is the direction it perceives and your nose is over here, when you roll, the roll moment is going to be impacted because of the differential in the angles that these are mounted, okay? So do better, FMS. That is unacceptable. And I'm gonna show you why it's unacceptable, because it's gonna be kind of tricky for the average brand new newbie to fix this. But this is what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We point out technical flaws and we fix them. See, look, double-sided tape, still sticky. I'm gonna slide this down. I'm gonna put it in the approximate same position. I'm gonna slide it back squarely so that it's square to the actual length of the frame, not necessarily the wall of the plane, okay? I want it square to the length of the plane. Now that will work. That stuff pisses me off. You know why? Because new people don't know how to fix it unless they watch a video like ours. So you're gonna find something, when you look on YouTube, there's a lot of people that do reviews, but there's not a lot of people that give you advice like that. I'm not saying that people don't know about it and people don't have that same experience, they just don't go into such great detail. That's part of the reason why we love that you're here with us, because we want you to have as good an experience as humanly possible. Here's the thing, guys. We're all about a few things on Brian Phillips RC. Full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. We don't lie about stuff. We have nothing to gain by lying to you, because you're the boss and FMS is just one of the people that work with us, okay? Just like Horizon, just one of their prime competitors, but they also work together too. It's very weird. Small incestuous relationship. And we work with all sorts of other brands, but those are the biggest ones, right? So here's the thing. They don't own us. We say whatever we want about their product. Usually it's good, because these are pretty good planes. We've already pointed out that problem. We pointed out the fact that all this stuff came apart when we were pulling it out. Not a big deal. We tell the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. 2, you guys are the boss. That's very important. Why do we serve the RC community? Because we want to help prevent what's called one and dones. One and done. You get the plane, you get the wrong one. You go way too far out. You get this F7F, you crash it. Boom, there's 750 bucks in the garbage can. Boom, there's $1,000 in the garbage can. Your wife's gonna kill you. You're gonna be pissed off. You're not gonna come back. It happens more than you want to admit, or more than we want to admit, and we want to try to prevent it because it kills the hobby. Every new customer needs to be starting somewhere close to where they belong, okay? You can't start way out there. If you do, you'll fail. And you'll fail more painfully than it needs to be. If you fail with something like this, big whoop. China glue, you'll have it fixed in a few minutes. I'm an expert, trust me, I know. So here's the thing. Also, if yours comes off, if it's at a weird angle like this and you pull it off and you can't get the stick back down, pull that up, take the China glue, put a little bit on there, okay? Scrub it around, spread it out, and then stick it down there. Pull it right off. Let it dry for about 2 minutes. Stick it on, won't come apart. Promise. You'll be able to hold the plane by that glue. All right, so getting excited about stuff. Here's the thing. We're passionate about this. We spend a lot of time, because we have done thousands of videos. Thousands, guys. Do you know what that means? We have videos that are 10 hours long, okay? We don't do a lot of short form. We make short form from our long form because we have so much of it, okay? So at the end of the day, we are here to do a purpose, and that is to grow the hobby in the right way, which is making people that know how to do what we do so that we are basically out of business. The more of you that learn how to do what we do, the less of you we need, okay? Look at this. Or I mean, the less of us you need.
Us you need, yeah.
Those are the tips. Take your tips, just like this, okay? And then stick them on, and this is going to be what drives little shards of metal into your thumbs, and they're awesome. That acts as a jam nut, so you can adjust the length by turning the lower nut if you want, and then you can hold it, and then you can screw the top nut down, and then get this. My throttle is longer than if I would have done it by default. By default, this would be tight. I'm gonna pull it out just a little bit, couple of turns, okay? Now look at this. Now I'm gonna hold that and I'm gonna tighten this down. Why do we go through the painstaking process of teaching people how to fly? Because I love it and it's hard. And anybody who tells you it's easy is a liar, because it's not. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It's much easier than it's ever been in the history of time. Although I can't speak to the history of time back in the 50s and 60s and 70s because I wasn't alive, but I can pretty much tell you from other people's experience, it's a lot easier now to learn to fly than it was. Here's your bind plug. It also comes with that pokey thing. I don't know what it's for, but it does exist. Now, if you ever do need to bind, just full disclosure, okay, that's what it looks like. I said it shorts ground to signal. That forces it into a mode where it's ready to communicate back and forth, full duplex with the transmitter. Now keep in mind, I want to talk about that full duplex. That means communication out, communication in on a radio system. This is a transmitter and a receiver. It's 2.4 gigahertz. It operates in Fly Sky. I don't know, what is that? It's AFHDS, okay? That's AFHDS. We do most on DSMX, which is a different protocol than this, which is a different protocol from Futaba, which is FHSS. There are different protocols. The protocols have to do with the way the pulse width modulation and the communication works, but they still operate in the 2.4 gigahertz realm, which, by the way, now that most of our internet is going over to 5 gigahertz, not 5G, China, it's 5 gigahertz. There is a reason we have HZ at the end of gigahertz. Okay, it's different. 5G, LTE is a totally different protocol, has nothing to do with it. China, use the whole lingo. That's why we have short words called acronyms. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting excited. Okay, so this thing works with that thing in there. But what you need to understand is that nowadays, if you're just coming back to the hobby, these things can be bound to other devices as well. Now, I am never going to use this for another plane because I have a much better transmitter and much better receivers that I like to use for my everyday flyers. I have like 240 some odd planes in this, and then we have another one right here and another one right here and another one right here, and then I have an 18 channel one somewhere over, oh, I don't know where we moved it. Then we have lots of transmitters because of what we do here on Brian Phillips RC. Now the average guy might have 15 of these and they might have 100 planes or 50 planes or 40 planes or whatever it is. But in your case, you have to decide whether or not you're gonna try to use this for more than one plane. It would be a bit of a pain in the butt, in my opinion.
It would be.
Spectrum has offerings, same thing. They come in SLT2, which is not DSMX. Some of them are SLT2 and DSMX. So if you're trying to understand protocols and you're brand new to the hobby, just don't. We'll take you step by step to the point where you all of a sudden start connecting dots, okay? That's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. That's why my videos are longer, because we try to bring real value to our audience. Okay, what else can we bring? 2 aileron plugs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, these are on a Y cable. It is a servo signal splitter, okay? That cable goes like that. We have 2 wings, yes? 2 wings, okay? 2 wings are going to need to become 1, right? So we'll have to screw them together, okay? So you see this? We have to first insert a carbon fiber rod You hear the noise? Sounds like a twang, okay? If it was plastic, it would be dull. If it was fiberglass, it'd be dull. If it was carbon fiber, it would be like metal, which is kind of interesting because it's carbon, which is like what we make metal out of, that's infused into fiber, similar to fiberglass or glass fiber, depending on if you're from overseas, okay? Then you take the black rod and you stick it in the black hole and you just enjoy it by putting them together, but don't cut your cable. See what I did with the cable? Slide it through, screw goes here, screw goes there. Very definitively, we're going to be using the short ones. So 2mm drive again, goes in here, start this. It's not wanting to start. Why does it not work, Brian? Because you have to sometimes use 4 hands to do this. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull this instrument. Camera crew's holding down here. She's just gonna hold it in place. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold this in place and I'm rolling my wrist like this. That's gonna tighten the joint. And guess what happens? Now I can start the screw. Now you can let go. And you see how it squeaks as soon as she lets go. Hold it again. If you go tight enough, it won't squeak quite as much. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, this is a foam plane. I grew up balsa, man, this is junk because it's just foam. No, it's not junk. And it's not just foam, it's carbon fiber, it's fiberglass, it's metal, it's plastic, it's electronics, it's all the different things that we make materials out of. This is not just foam, it's reinforced in a lot of different places, the places that matter. And believe me, if you know anything about aviation, planes are made extremely light and crappy. And you can put your foot through most of it. And you're like, how do I fly through the air at 500 miles an hour when I can put my arm through this? Well, maybe not a 500 mile an hour plane, but even still, unless you're talking about an F-14 that's got a titanium tail or whatever it is, then you're talking about very light duty builds, okay? Now this back hole, you'll notice is opened up. It's not gonna wanna start. So if you guys are of the mindset that like, hey, foam equals bad, trust me, just get a couple of them, you'll be fine. You'll get over it so fast, you'll have 47 foamies. I am going to now press with my arm, and I'm just tightening this. Now, I'm just doing that so you can see good. All I'm doing is, you see how I'm pushing that tip of the wing? That just gets the 2 holes to align so that the first thread catches. Once the first thread catches, you're good to go. And what I meant by foam, bad, foam good, I'm trying to explain. Foam is not necessarily bad, foam is not necessarily good. Foam is an inanimate object, okay? What makes this good foam, bad foam is design. But guess what? Everybody in China knows that. And so what they'll do is they will make a very bad design and then they will try to sell to you. But I will tell you how bad it sucks. And that's why you come to Brian Phillips RC and I'll make fun of them too, which is fun. Look at this, watch this. Brown is down, ugh. Why didn't they do yellow is down? Because then you wouldn't see it as much. And you see, this is really ticking me off. This thing's popping out. China glue to the rescue. So we'll use some China glue. This is FMS branded China glue. I write that by hand. Yes, I do have electrical tape on the bottom. Why would you have electrical tape on your China glue? Because that's just how crappy the tube is. Aluminized tube. You make one time, you mix it up with your toothpaste, and you'll never do it again.
That's the first time we've had a tube do that though.
Well, it popped on the bottom.
Yeah,
we usually go through it a little bit quicker. Okay, so just a little bit on there. Barely any, and to be honest with you, you don't have to use China glue for this. You can use a piece of tape, but I'm just gonna show you how I do it. And since it's all pulled out, maybe I can flip it. Nah, I'm probably not even gonna flip it. I want to go on here and hold this up and just slather it. Whoop, and I don't wanna go overboard. Okay, so about here. And then just China glue, China glue. Okay, like that, very good. Now, what is this China glue? And you're like, oh, that's so racist. No, it's not. It's called China glue in China, okay? So I didn't name it. I'm just the one that uses it, okay? Throw away your Q-tip. We always have Q-tips, lots of them, in our kitchen. So when that sets up, and you're like, why would you leave glue sitting there? Because this is the way contact adhesive works. It gets cooked off. The chemicals react with the oxygen. That's why it's in aluminized, opaque tube, because light and oxygen and carbon dioxide and all these different inert gases around us that we breathe will activate this and it will start to dry. And so all you need to do is just stick it on there and it will eventually become tacky to the point where we'll hold it in this hole. Now, while it's a little bit wet because it's going into a channel, I am going to slide it in. And you're like, but that's self-defeating. You just literally told us to do the opposite of that. No, I was teaching you about glue. Because I have to slide it into a channel, I am going to go ahead and push it down a little bit premature compared to if I was gluing two halves of a wing together or a tail section or some such thing, okay? Now, watch this. I'm just gonna press my finger down the joint. And yes, I am displacing the foam a little bit, and that's gonna hold there. And you won't believe me, but in 2 minutes, I can pick up the whole plane from that cable. And provided the cable is strong enough, it would hold the weight of the entire plane because that joint will be incredibly strong, not just a little bit strong, okay? So, there it is. It's in. In fact, no, not quite. So, I'm using this, happens to be a 1.5 millimeter drive. I'm just gonna push it down in there just a little bit. And as you can see, if I would have waited too long, it would have been incredibly hard to stuff that into the pocket because it would have stuck and then not wanted to go down. If you ever make the mistake of getting China glue on something, you can actually rub it off, or you can use a product called CA Accelerator, also known as Kicker, and you can take that and you can actually break down the adhesive with this stuff, but it'll also break down the paint, so be careful. That is usually used to set something like this whatever brand we got that time. We have links to this stuff, we have links to this stuff, we have links to the China glue, we have links to the foam, the competitive offering. What I say is usually when you buy a plane like this, it's like $5 or $6, just get at least one tube. Get at least one of those voltage alarms. That's how you do it when you're brand new. This stuff's more expensive. I think it's probably about 20 bucks for something like this. And then this stuff is like 11, 15 bucks, something like that. You'll use it forever if you don't spill it. That's why I have a Pringles lid glued to the bottom, because I've tipped it over so many times.
And you can get big, like, refills.
You get huge refill bottles.
And just refill your small bottles.
And this stuff is CA, so you can see it's like a medium thick. That would be what you maybe used when you were building wood models. But nowadays, we have foam safe versions. They have different cap colors. Black and white are pretty common. These are BSI. These are all BSI. Bob Smith Industries, very good brand. I actually really like their CA products. And if you got this in different thicknesses and viscosities, you'd be looking at blue tips for thin, purple for thick,
pink.
and then pink is extra thick. Actually, purple's medium. So that's what most people use. All right, so speaking of strength, it can hold up the wing.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's just been sitting there for a couple of minutes. Now, the reason I show you that is because everybody thinks, oh, poo-poo, China glue no good. It's good. It's very good. It's very good. It's huge. It's one of the best you can get. And I like China glue because it's cheap, it's effective, and I can glue parts together. And what happens is most people poo-poo it until they realize that this entire assembly is China glued together. Look at that seam. They don't make this in one piece, they make it in two pieces, and then they mount those halves together with China glue. Okay? All right, learn something new every day. I'm Brian Phillips, RC. If you're brand new to the channel, thanks for subscribing. Click the bell for notifications. We'll help get you in the air from the chair. And that's what we want to do, is get everybody there, but then help you find success, because who cares if you buy the wrong plane and you quit abruptly? It's just going to be a nasty experience. You're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to be very frustrated. We're going to help prevent that. Okay. So these are now mounted together, as you know, from screwing those screws together, and we could put this on. But then I'm thinking, why the heck would we put that on when we have a horizontal stabilizer to put on, Brian? I just get excited about details. Okay. Flip the plane over.
Don't lose your plane stand.
So you'll notice there are, oh, and that's the other thing, guys. You remember foam bad, balsa wood good? Look at this. There is an insert. It's made of plastic. It dissipates over to this. And then there is a nutsert that's pressed in under heat, and then that receives the screw. FMS is one of the best at their jig work. So what happens is you get a part that fits in the hole, except it fits this way. It fits perfectly. And then all you got to do is just get that in by moving the elevator. And look at that. Now you got a perfect moving elevator. This is called a pin change. It's probably one of the weakest parts of the plane. But the truth is, smaller planes don't need a lot of reinforcement, and you don't need an embedded hinge. There are some people that will argue with me on that, and that's fine. We can still be friends. Look at this. Plastic, joiner, plastic. So when you move from this side, they both move exactly at the same rate. That is something we didn't have as recently as like 5 or 6 years ago, guys. We are seeing this all the time on every plane because what happens is this is a very fast evolving system of planes.
Long screws.
What?
Long screws.
Long screws.
In the tail.
Okay, both. Okay, so the longer screws. It's a very fast evolving technology because what's happening is every time that they make a new plane, they engineer new creative solutions to problems that they heard about because Brian Phillips RC, the people that were supposed to help market and sell planes, told all their audience all the problems.
Complained about it.
Because that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC, which is ironic because all these companies keep working with us. You want to know why? Because our audience is not a bunch of idiots. They're smart people that come and do their due diligence before they buy aircraft. And they say, hey, you know, Brian's good about telling me what problems they ran into. Sometimes he's a little long-winded. Sometimes. But at the end of the day, we hear the answers. Oh, by the way, you'll notice that there is an extra screw, one of each size. That's something FMS has sort of gotten away from on some planes. One long, one short. If you're left with one long, one short, or there's 3 sizes or whatever, and you're left with one of each, except for the exception is nose cone screws are really long, so they're kind of a weird size.
Yep.
You usually don't get extras.
Or like a weird thumb screw or something.
Or if you have like a bunch that hold the wing on or something like that, usually you'll have like really big ones that go to the wing. Sometimes they don't always send extras to those. Okay, then this elevator is going to be controlled by this linkage. Now let's talk about this linkage. It has a Z-bend on the end and then it's threaded on this end. And this is called a clevis. The clevis has what I like to call the phallic shaped plug that goes into the other side. Okay, and then we have this right here. This is rubber and it's like a fuel hose that they clipped. And then this, if you brace it here with your fingers, you can spin. Sometimes I like to use 3 fingers because I can hold it like this even when it's installed, and it will sometimes allow you to spin, sometimes not. Usually that's on the end of a control arm and you'll have enough, but you're really hard on this if you try to turn it while it's in there, okay? So try to get it close, and sometimes what I'll do is before I even install this, I'll snap it shut and then I'll grab this rubber and just spin it in a bunch until I get resistance, and then I'll spin it out a bunch until it gets close to the end. So I have kind of a good idea of where these threads, you see how there's almost nothing and it tapers down to something. That's because they don't use a bottom tap when they're tapping these, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So about 9 half turns. So maybe 4.5, 5 full turns for the full length. So when we're ready to install this, it'll be here for us, but you'll notice I'm gonna do something different than I did earlier. I'm gonna slide this into the outside hole. That's what they call for in the manual. And I'm gonna slip this back. Now don't forget this, but I'm gonna leave that loose. Why would I leave that loose? Seems like it'd be really easy to forget that. You're right, and that is a true statement, okay? It would be easy to forget if you're a beginner, but I'm not a beginner, okay? It might seem like it from my crashes, but I'm not a beginner, okay? See, I was a beginner just about 10 years ago, and 500 planes and aircraft ago, okay? So we've got the transmitter. We're almost ready to set it up. We will eventually have to put some double A's in
Batteries,
there,
yep.
okay? We're gonna get there eventually. Now, one thing you might find, this is just a tip, it's not necessarily the way you have to do it by any means, is that when you're building a plane, it's always easy to put the wing on last. Sometimes the instructions call it out earlier. Also, I just wanna show you one other tip. You don't have to do this. I'm gonna do it because it's annoying to have a receiver flopping around. And guess what? I don't need no double-sided tape. China to the rescue, China, do it. I'm gonna put tariffs on your glue. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, there probably are tariffs on this glue.
Probably.
I don't care because it's good glue and it's still cheap because it's so dang cheap. And if we had mucilage from trees, we could do it here too. By the way, mucilage is a plant-based glue and it is a bark sort of thing, I guess, like something that comes out. Now, you see what happens? I stuck it on the side. Camera crew can't see because she's at a bad angle. Now I'm gonna pull this out and you're like, you just pulled it off and you just put that glue on there. I'm gonna slather it with my finger because I can. Watch this, see that? See, now it's sort of like dried. Tack it up, see that? I'm pulling it off of the product because that's plastic, okay? So now that I've sort of activated it, that's the other thing you can do is you can quickly activate it by pressing on it or putting the components into each other a few times. So one, oop, it won't even come off now. Good. Now, if you wanted to take that off, take that kicker, put a little bit in the seam, and this thing will break down the glue and you'll be able to easily pull it off or just rip it off. You can rip it off. Okay, these two antennas are just gonna be probably hanging loose for now. I think the best thing you could do is probably tape them in a perpendicular 90-degree orientation so they are crossing each other like this. This, not this, this, okay? Not this, this, not this, this. There's a million ways you can do it. Keep them 90 degrees offset. That's because that's a diversity antenna. What does diversity mean? It means it's diverse, okay? So look at this. One of them may be a transmitter, one be a receiver, and I'm just slid that down by about a 1/4 inch, or excuse me, not a 1/4 inch, but an 1/8 of an inch. And now I'm gonna slide this in so it holds the other antenna, okay? See, I just made a little spot for that antenna to park. See how it's parked in there? Super easy. There's nothing I'm doing that you can't handle, guys. If you know how to work with your hands even a little bit, which most people that get into this hobby know how to work with their hands. They know how to operate scissors. They know how to open a bottle of toothpaste, etc. You can do this, okay? We're gonna help you get there. You can learn from our mistakes too, which is kind of nice. Now, we were talking about materials and why this is so good. Well, this is one reason why foam is not good. If you get a crack like this in your foam, it's kind of ugly. Right there, it's kind of ugly. But it's not the end of the world, because get this. When you're flying this, you're probably gonna have some cracks when you crash, okay? If you're brand new, plan on crashing so that you don't feel bad when it happens. You get a couple of planes deep, you can actually do it where you maybe don't crash as much. Look at the light. You see that black thing that goes where the R is? It goes on the top of the R and goes out to wherever that checkerboard is. Mm-hmm. That is a reinforcement along the length of the wing. And it's very strong compared to what it would be without the reinforcement. Now, I'm not gonna say that this is the stiffest wing ever, because it's not. But it's a heck of a lot stiffer because of that carbon fiber or fiberglass insert. And you can see right here, this is the receiver portion of it. They actually glued in this little component here to cap it off, and that is where your wing joiner goes in. So when they jig this at the plant to build it, they actually put the joiner together and then glue it all together, and then once it's set, they pull it back apart. Okay, now, very simple process. Look, we're gonna plug in the 2 wires. Camera crew's gonna put a hand on that wing. There's a brown, a red, and an orange or a yellow. That's Hextronics JR color code. If they're white, the white would be here, it'd be equivalent to yellow. The red would still be red, and the black would be equivalent to brown, okay? Now we're just gonna pick one of the 2 aileron plugs, and we're gonna take the brown, and we're gonna put the brown up in this case, line up these clips, slide it in. That's a keeper. Make sure it snaps. It did snap, and then we can tug on it to make sure it's secure. And there you go, color for color. Same thing here, we'll do the same thing here. Now this is gonna give us 2 aileron servos that are gonna be commanded by the same channel, because we're using a servo signal splitter, which also splits off the power and the ground, okay? So you have a common connection via the brown, you have power via the red, and you have signal via the orange or yellow in this case. And they go back to the same point of origin on the reflex. The reflex is the flight controller. And you're like, what the heck is a flight controller, Brian? I know what a receiver is, but I don't know what a flight controller is. A flight controller is gonna manage and handle the actual stabilization, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Stabilization, what is stabilization? Stabilization is where the flight controller actively helps you to tolerate and handle things like turbulence, thermals, wind. See, I'm pulling these in. Once I get them close, I'm gonna put those 2 in, and then I'm gonna look back here. I'm gonna lift up the wing, and I'm gonna take my finger and just swipe it forward to make sure all the wires go forward, and then I'm gonna drop it in by the wing, okay? Now, all I need to do is pull this out, because I dropped those in earlier. And you see it's keyed, so when you're this way, it'll drop down, okay? And it will drop down if I just get the wing in there. Now it drops down, and then it twists and locks. Look how perfect that looks.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Then this one, same thing, it goes through like that, and then we're gonna turn it this way, and you can see it goes the same contour of the wing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's very idiot proof, and believe me, when you're getting into this hobby, you're probably at some point, you're gonna feel like an idiot because there's things that you just don't know because nobody told you. You're not an idiot, it's just nobody told you. That's why we're here, okay? XT60, that's what that connector style is called. That looks like a female connector because it's a socket. Nope, it's male because it's got male pins. Remember, the pins or the electrical sockets, the copper, the gold, that's what matters. This is a female connector. No, it's a male connector. The battery, speaking of, should be charged now. I heard it beep. Yeah, it says 100%. When we scroll down, it says, you know, something like 4.2 volts per cell. So we can just unplug this at our leisure, unplug that balance lead, and then we can unplug our extension cord / adapter. And then we can take this over to our XBC battery checker. In fact, let's put it on here and see what it says for a fully charged battery. It says, no soup for you. I want to charge you more. Well, guess what? I don't think you need it. So I'm gonna plug you in here. And what that tells me is that this charger would probably bring the voltage too high, okay? So pretty good, it's reporting that as 100% charged. Now we've got a 1300 milliamp 3S right here in our hands. And this would plug in to that. Very good. But that, my friends, is a female, even though it looks like a male. I know it's confusing for people sometimes. We don't want to add to confusion here on Brian Phillips RC, so we're going to make it as simple as possible. Also, if you have one of these Predator low voltage alarms, then you can actually plug this in and you'll see there's a minus there. So the minus goes to the black here, or the most negative lead. Okay, and then that will alarm when we hit the target value, in this case as we drop voltage. Now, ironically, you can also still use that for competitive branded, even smart batteries. Camera. See this? Where's my negative? I'm so confused. This is the positive most lead. This is the negative most lead. So that's where your negative would be. You can also look really close at the way these pins, these little chases here, are lined up, and that will tell you where your negative is. Okay? So just remember, when you're looking at batteries, don't get overwhelmed when you're brand new getting into this hobby, because yes, it is one of the hardest things to learn because A, it's kind of like tires, like who cares? Why do I want to learn this crap? Well, if you're flying radio controlled airplanes, you're going to have to learn this crap, okay?
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why we push so hard on batteries. And yes, that does make for a longer, more boring video for the people that know about batteries. So those of you that know about batteries, give me a break. Everybody starts somewhere. I just showed one of the most powerful features of that, a power switch. I love it. I leave it plugged in, I hit the power switch, I don't have to unplug a plug. Okay, remember, everybody starts somewhere, and that's part of the reason we do this on Brian Phillips RC, is because I was one of those beginners that was going to the hobby shop as a highly technical, intelligent person that worked on industrial electronics, wrote software, integrated, knew how to work on hydraulics, pneumatics, electronics, all sorts of intermechanical systems, and yet I was an idiot at the hobby shop, and they treated me that way. Okay? Why? I was there to spend money. Idiocy on display, and you'll notice that that happens at a few hobby shops. Now, I'm not saying they're all like that, because if they're all like that, they'd all be out of business, because the internet is a much easier place to shop for most.
We've met some super good hobby shop owners since we started doing this.
Watch this. And they play our videos at their shop, and I'm like,
Yes.
you guys are crazy, because we're trying to sell planes right out from under you. But they're like, no, it's good, because it's a net victory for our hobby. And they even get that, you know? So it's great, guys. We're here to promote a hobby that we love, knowing that there's holes in the delivery of said products to you, the consumer, and also, believe me, we're consumers too. So you can see it's in one piece, very cool. We've got a linkage we have to install and connect, and then we have a linkage we have to install and connect by tightening. Oh, shucks. I forgot, I had to tighten that.
Tighten.
I never tightened the screw to put that on. So I'll show you how easy it is to get this set, because we're almost there. In fact, we're at the point now in the video where we have to battery the transmitter. We'll be right back. All right, so this part's pretty simple stuff. You got a flat spot on your battery, slide it down in. You got a flat, slide it in. It's also labeled minus and plus, and as you can see, minus is the flat side, plus is the bump. If you don't know that, I would be highly surprised that you're in this hobby, but the truth is, we don't want to make people feel dumb because nobody ever taught you something, okay? We're here to make you understand something that is technical and something that is difficult without the right advice, okay? So we're gonna be that advice for you here on Brian Phillips RC. Take this time, click the bell for notifications when you subscribe. Obviously, you wanna know about new content. We've got a light on here that says high, mid, and low. That says bind key right there. So I put it in bind mode. Don't press that unless you want to. This, of course, is what we call a mode 2 transmitter. So throttle is here, rudder is here, which also moves your steerable nose gear. This is an elevator back, so it pulls up the nose, elevator down, pushes the nose down, roll to the right, roll to the left. So imagine this is a stick. You're sitting in here flying the plane, you know, you're doing this, and this is your rudders, your pedals, okay? So you'll see me, I'll hold the transmitter and I'll move it like I'm moving the plane to help reinforce some of these concepts, but it's hard for you as the audience member to see that. Now remember, we have this cable. That cable is used if you need to update the Reflex V3, or if you decide to rip that out like we had to do and move it to a different plane, you'll have to reprogram it potentially because it might not be set up as a high wing trainer with ailerons, elevator, and rudder. It might be set up as a low wing sport jet with a delta wing, okay? So you can do those setup changes using the USB cable and their provided software, which is free of charge, and you just have to get it from FMS. We'll put links to this plane so you can buy one if you like it. You don't have to get it this color, you can get it whatever color you want. And our link will also work for the other size Rangers. There is an 850 millimeter that has like GPS or something. We never got the GPS to work on.
Yep.
Then there's the 1250, and I believe the 1700 will also show up in those search results. So you follow a link that says bprc.me, that's our short link, our domain. It'll have a slash and it'll say what the plane is. And when you click on that, you tell FMS, hey, Brian sent me there. Give him a commission if we buy something. Okay, if you don't, no big deal. It doesn't hurt us at all. But if you do, then we'll be commissioned on the sale of this particular product, and that's how we make this all happen, okay?
You can also see like the float set or spare parts if you need a prop. Or
if you want a spare prop, which, by the way, get a spare prop when you're new, get a few, okay? When I went to the hobby shop, one of the things they said that pissed me off the most was the guy told me, I never need spare props. And I'm like, well, I usually get like 4 or 5 with each plane. Yeah. What am I doing wrong? It's called being new. Right. When you're new, you go through props like crazy.
Right. And you
But just remember, there's nothing wrong with you. That's what everybody does. But the guy at the hobby shop that's trying to make a living off of me was too arrogant to tell me, oh yeah, here's the prop.
And you don't get 4 or 5 props with planes now.
No.
Because you're not new. Like
I really don't.
It won't happen forever.
So to take off the wing, this is how quick this goes. Pop these forward, boom. Pop this forward. And ironically enough, that hobby shop was pretty good. It's just that one guy was just being kind of a jerk that night, I guess. So these pop out, they drop down. We've already spun these. Once you spin them, you should just have to lift. Now, why are we doing this? Because in order to get the rudder set, I have to let this be for a moment. Now I'm gonna lift this up, press this down, lift it up. And I need to plug in the battery. Because this has already been bound by the factory, we shouldn't have to bind, but just make sure with certainty that this is down. I don't know if we have a throttle hold on here. I hope we do, but I doubt we do.
Probably not.
Throttle hold basically, or throttle cut, stops the throttle from working until you shut it off. And you'll notice, where's my hand gonna be? Right next to the prop. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this battery lead. I'm actually gonna work back here so I can keep in a safe spot. Also, camera crew's holding the wing. I'm holding the fuse in case that throttle would start. We'll wait for the battery to die or we'll unplug it, but it won't. Plugging it in. It's gonna start working soon. You'll see the reflexes flashing, okay? Now it's arming. You'll hear that beep, 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 beep. That means beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, so the first beep is just like a song. Then there's how many cells. And then that high-pitched beep means there's not breaking on. Those are things you learn as you listen to the brushless motor sing a song by having our harmonic frequency called out instead of go left or go right, okay? You can control that, and they will tell you in the manual at some point how to program the ESC. Okay. Now, also, this is a beginner plane, so it probably doesn't have it. I also can now trust this plane because the throttle's not started on me. But I'm going to hold the plane while I've got the prop clear. I'm going to go ahead and give throttle and show you what it looks like. That's what it looks like going to the hospital. Okay. Throttle 6 down. Now I'm going to move this switch and see what happens. Yep, it still works. So that's not a throttle hold, but I would normally have a throttle hold over here or a throttle cut over here. I'm going to try the other one on the other side. Nope, nothing. So I'm not going to assume that there is any protection here. And for that reason, if you have this on a lanyard and you're walking around and you duck down, you may chop your hand up. Be careful, okay? There's 2 ways people get hurt in this hobby. And you would, I mean, there's obviously the oddball, somebody gets hit in the eyeball at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It doesn't really happen. What happens is people get cut on these things called props. And they have fires from these things called batteries. Don't be that guy. Do your due diligence. When you charge, be in the room where you can see and hear. If something goes awry, use a hard surface. This is granite. Granite is a hard surface. That's thick. It will dissipate. The heat won't burn through, okay? We are a bad example with all the batteries we have, but most of them are smart batteries, okay? So they're gonna have a battery management circuit that's gonna help discharge them to the safest level possible, 3.8 or 3.9 volts for storage automatically. That's nice. This will not do that. So when you're done flying, it's going to set itself to discharge. Nope, you have to use it to discharge it or put it on your charger and discharge it. It's a fool's errand. Just fly the plane, okay? 1.5 millimeters, we're going to now tighten this, which we never tightened before. Why are we tightening that now? Well, because we have to ultimately do it. I have to slide this back so I can see the steerable nose gear is in a certain position. Can you come over here with that? Thank you. So as I move, that works. Right? But the rudder is not tightened, so it doesn't really move, okay? How do we know it's not gonna move? Because look right there, it's never been tightened, okay? So I'm just gonna go in here now that we have the nose wheel centered. I'm gonna make sure my rudder is centered back here. How do I know it's centered? By holding it in position. Now I'm gonna take and twist with my left hand, and I'm gonna tighten down the grub screw. Then I'm gonna take, as I got a little bit of purchase on it, I'm gonna take and just make sure I go kind of crazy on it. It's trying to bend it, but that's good enough. Then I can wiggle this until it slips out. Now watch the rudder using caution. Sounds like some sort of an animal dying. Okay, so now that we've done that, I can de-energize for safety reasons. There's no reason to have a dangerous condition. Now, if I accidentally go, it's not gonna fly off the stand, it's not gonna fly into my hand, it's not gonna fly into my face or my family jewels. Any of those things would suck, okay? All right, so check this out, guys. Look, we got this wire. Now that we've got everything sort of done, I can take this wire, and that's the Reflex V3, okay? The V2 is orange, the V1, I don't know what color it is. So you see I've lifted these cables together? I'm gonna do this as easy as possible. I'm just gonna take and twist these cables as I bring the wing forward, and then I'm just gonna kind of like do a little wrap job with them, okay? This is just cable management 101. You can do it a million different ways, and there is not a wrong way so long as you keep that crap out of your servos. Now look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just take this, and this little bundle is just gonna tuck in here next to the Reflex, okay? And then I'm gonna slip this down, drop this.
You got one cable still.
Okay, I'm gonna come around. That's what I was gonna do next. I'm gonna come around, and I'm gonna look and see I've got one cable still needing to slide forward, okay? And then I'm gonna slide this forward, push those 2 pins in, and then I'm gonna push this down, turn this to where it'll drop, and it push that down. Once they're both down, I can press and slide. Press and turn to slide that into position so it's locked, all right? Now, we also have an elevator that we need to hook up, okay? The servo should have centered when I had it plugged in, so we can address that, but I'm gonna get these wing struts back on. So the wing struts are pretty easy. You just slide this up, go into the big the big hole, and then slide them back, and we're done. And so as you're flying, they'll be pushed back a little bit in flight. And by the way, I gotta say, nice looking plane, very light. It's gonna be easy on its feet. And by the way, let's take a look real quick while we're down here. See this cable we glued in? You see it hasn't popped out once since. I can barely get that thing to move. I can't get it to pop out. That's good. That's what we wanted in the first place. All right, so now I'm gonna take this tool and put it away because we're done with it. We've already set the one set screw that we didn't have a tool for. And full disclosure, there was no tool included with this. You only got a 2mm to actually run all the components together. So you, I don't know, we used to get a million of those things. So it's kind of nice because you knew for sure at least you could get it done. Okay, this elevator servo, when we energized the circuit, it went to the center position, okay? So I'm gonna slide this little thing back and I'm gonna pop this back off. Now, why did I have that on there? As a reminder, because I can see it. Then I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna go into the hole, the furthest most outside hole, because they didn't say to go anywhere else. And once I get that lined up, I have to kind of twist, and that's gonna, you see how I have my finger behind it, that's to help support so I don't bend this really bad, okay? Now, it's not wanting to stick in there very good because there is a little bit of a lip, barely a little tiny lip on there. Watch this. Yeah. Watch this. There's an aggressive amount of aggregate that's not smoothed on the bottom. So I'm just gonna use that to knock down that leading edge. I'm gonna take my pinky, put it behind it, and I'm just gonna walk this right in. Yep, it's going in now. Okay, so if you're having trouble, you can use a drill bit to push that through. You can make it a little bit bigger, but I've noticed that it's hard to find drill bits in that size. And if you're here in North America, then you probably don't have a metric set. Where is my needle nose pliers? Oh, here they are. Somebody put them in the wrong spot. So needle nose pliers, run of the mill, nothing special. I'm gonna take the needle nose pliers, I'm gonna support behind, and then I'm gonna push it in. Okay, see how it's pushed in? Now I'm gonna take and hold them offset and push it the rest of the way. Then, when I'm to this point, I can go ahead and try to lift this to lever it through. But because there is a pretty tight fit, I'm gonna hold to support it by doing this. And then I'm just gonna twist just like that, okay? Now that that's in, we can slide it back. And I'm noticing that there's a little bit of an offset there. You see how that's shot over like that? If you want to avoid that, you can actually hold this, 3 fingers, and then give it just a little bend. So you can actually get that thing just a little bit more lined up. So there's less resistance, okay? So you don't want to bend if it's super long because it'll actually create a weak point and it will push and then give. Since that's short, we can get away with it. There are some advantages to being short. All right, so now the next move we need to do.
Are you gonna hook up the
No.
close? Oh.
The next step we need to do is I need to plug in the battery so that I can get that thing centered because I don't trust it, even though I probably should. Okay. This battery, we're gonna strap it in this time because we have to do some more movements now. So you can do this either direction, but I'm gonna do it that way. This Velcro is a mid-grade quality, and so there's a pocket that you can slide the Velcro through itself. Okay, but I need a little bit more. It slides through the balsa wood, or basswood rather, bass or plywood there. You pull this, and then you push that, and next thing you know, you can tighten it. Now that's why we do shelf liner, because then it wants to naturally stick into that position without having a bunch of Velcro that's making a mess. See, you can barely move that thing because the shelf liner doesn't take hardly any downward pressure. If that had Velcro, it'd be held super tight, but then you would have Velcro on the label and you might need to read that sometime, or you have it on the wrong side in the next plane, or all those things. And you'll find out I'm right when you get into this hobby a lot. A lot of guys still use Velcro anyway, okay? They'll have Velcro on all 4 sides of the batteries. I hate that, okay? XT60, we already know it's not gonna chop my hand off. Throttle sticks down, power's on, but even though we know, we're gonna assume not. And even though we know, which is not assuming, I guess, because it's an educated guess at this point, I'm gonna still get my hand out of the way and I'm gonna plug it in. Guys, there are planes that have much bigger, more dangerous props that you have to get more up in their business to do what needs to be done. It's going through a dance. You noticed everything moved. Then you hear that singing. Now that I trust it's not going to jump, I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to just collapse it so that it goes inside of the cabinet. Okay. Once it's inside of the cabinet, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go like that, drop it in and push it down. Okay. Now I can take this, flip it upside down, and you'll notice, look what's happening to the ailerons. This is an auto leveling, so it'd be a terrible time to hook up the elevator. So I need to figure out which switch impacts that. That doesn't do anything. That takes it out of the auto leveling. There might be still stabilizer on, or it might be off. There's off, stabilizer, and auto leveling with stabilizer, okay? That's the stabilizer. I can hear it responding to my movement. I'll show you how to test that shortly. I'm gonna go to the off setting, the middle, and now it shouldn't even respond when I move it. So it's quiet, and it's just like, if you're an old timer and you wanna fly like you used to where there was no stabilizer, you can turn it off right in the middle, okay? So this would be stabilizer, this would be off, and this would be auto leveling and stabilization. So we're gonna go to off. Now, I'm gonna take this opportunity to mark the transmitter, and you should do that too if you're brand new to the hobby and you don't know what the heck you're doing, or you're just learning because you're watching Brian Phillips RC right now. This is a very good tip. We don't just give advice for hearing myself talk. I know some of you think that, but since I know all this stuff, why would I want to tell somebody for no reason? I want somebody to win with me. Okay, so this is going to be, is this off or stabilizer?
That's stabilizer at the top.
So stab, and then this is going to be auto level. Okay, and this is off.
Yep.
It's going to be very hard to read that, but I can tell it's there.
Right.
Okay? And that's good enough for me. If you want to print labels or whatever, you can get as sophisticated as you like.
Yeah.
You probably don't need to be super sophisticated on this, but you can if you want. Now, I'm not sure what this one does, but we'll find out shortly. Now, if I move the elevator, why is that not moving? Oh, because we never plugged it in. Dang it! I got to take the wing off again. We never plugged it in.
Is it not?
We never plugged it in. We had to feed that wire through. Okay, pop out these, just like that. Pop these out. We're just showing you how easy it is to get the wing off. Give these a half turn, lift it up, walk it back, leave it where it is. And then the elevator is sitting there being all lonely and jaded. As you can see, I never plugged it in. You're like, but where do I plug that in? There's so many places it could potentially be stuffed. Yes, true. The elevator is right here if you want to show them that reflex. And I'm going to show you what forceps are next because it'll make it a lot easier to plug that in. You don't have to use forceps. You could use needle nose pliers, or you could use your very, very long, very slender fingers if you have them. This is forceps, hemostats. I like the bent tip. I almost always use the bent tip. You can find stuff like this from the links in our supplies tab if you're looking to buy some. We got these at our local Menards. Okay, so the brown is going this way, the yellow is going that way. I'm going to grab it like this, and I just want to take note of how they're plugged in. The brown goes to the back, so I'm going to, yep, I'm making sure the brown is to the back. Now I can clip this on. That's one of the reasons I really like hemostats, or also known as forceps. Now this one goes somewhere on here. It goes to, looks like the second one in says elevator. So that means I got to go in here. That is going to suck to plug in. Wouldn't be quite as bad if I hadn't done my little pseudo cable management. So just to be fair, I'm going to unplug the aileron so you can see. The second one in is elevator. Can you shine that light so you can see? Just get it all the way in there. You guys see where it says elevator? Mm-hmm. Can you see it? Zoom in.
Right there.
You guys see it? It says elevator. It's silver on black, so stupid color choices. Brown goes back. Now I have to lift my forceps to get to a weird angle, so I'm going to reposition my forceps so I don't have to do that. Now I'm going to rebite, and I'm going to slide it in an angle first so I can get purchase, and then I'm going to let go with the forceps, and I'm going to go in here with the tip of my finger and force it the rest of the way down. Now that's plugged in. The elevator is plugged. Now watch this. The elevator's going to move. Okay, so it's working. Good. Okay. Now I got to plug back in my ailerons, which I disconnected briefly to make that happening. Where is it? Oh, they're right here, guys. Look at that. Okay, so now that we have these off, I'm going to go ahead and just twist them a bunch. Why would you do that, Brian? That seems like a very counterintuitive thing to do. No, it's not, because what's going to happen is now this will stay as one cable. Okay, as one cable. And it should keep it out of the connection down below. Now I can do the same thing I did with these. I want to come in here. I don't want to pinch my cables. I just want to hold the connector. And you see I can get these teeth to clamp right onto it like that. Okay. Then the brown goes back, and I'm going to slide it in. And once it's slid in, I take my index finger with my fingernail, and I go ahead and press it the rest of the way. Why not do it with forceps? Because you can't press it in, you're up against the other connector and you'll just push him out of the way and you might damage something. So I like to let go halfway and push with my finger. If you can't push with your fingers, back off, clip this shut, push with the tip of the forceps. You can do it that way too. Okay, see this, guys? Look, you got this nice little bundle. You got this nice little bundle. Now they can just go down here and play together and have a good old time. Why do they want to have a good old time? They want to have a good old time and not hang out with that servo, which would be your rudder servo, okay? If they hang out with your rudder servo, then people make fun of them, and it's just not a happy thing. Because the next thing you know, your plane's crashed. Did I clear them? Mm-hmm. Okay. Drop it down, push in, give it a half turn. Push it in. If it doesn't drop down, you got it in the wrong position. Good. And then we'll clip. So that's now 4 times we've taken this wing on and off. And so for those of you at home keeping track, there are many people that have suggested drinking games for Brian Phillips RC. Whether I make a mistake or ask you to support us by buying from the links in the video description or whatever it happens to be, do what you think is right. Here at Brian Phillips RC, we are here to serve you, and we want you to know how to do what we do. And the thing that's so funny about it is there's a dime a dozen reviews on YouTube, but it's rare that you're gonna find somebody that starts in the box and ends in the air. Now, in your case, you're gonna see the flight on a different video. It's called the maiden flights, and they're gonna have the Unbox build radio set up for virtually every single plane or helicopter you see in this room right now. We have done an Unbox build radio setup at the end of the flight, if it's a helicopter or some small packaged item, or in a separate video. But they're always available on the playlist. If you can't find your plane because YouTube's playlist search sucks, and it does, all you have to do is go to bprc.me or brianphillipsrc.com. It's the same place. One's a short link, it's gonna take you there. One's a long link, it's gonna take you there. It just takes a little bit more, and you can misspell Brian and you can misspell Phillips. If you do BP, Brian Phillips, RC.ME, you'll be there, okay? Now, we know that that's centered. How do we know that's centered? Because now it's hooked up. Woo-wee! It's hooked up, but we're also not in auto leveling. What if your ailerons looked like that? You'd be in auto leveling. I wanna make sure I'm in off so I don't have any impact from a stabilizer or auto leveling, okay? Now that I know I'm not, I can look at this. Now, look at the end of that elevator. Does that look centered to you?
No.
The actual control surface?
No.
I agree. So what do we do to fix it? Well, we need to bring it up a little bit, which means we need to go in on this thing. So if we have to go in on this thing, I like to use that rubber, helps. I click it shut, I grab this and I go half, 1 and a half, okay? I count out loud, that's what I do. It's just a habit. I'm a creature of habit.
Nope.
Nope, more? Probably another half or another 1.
Probably 1, I bet.
There's 1 more. So we did 2.5 adjustments for my initial test point. That looks pretty dang good. So just get yourself down on the side plane, and you want to see that this is straight. It is a little bit subjective, so be aware. There might be some subjectivity involved. That's not quite square. Go to the end like this. If it's like this, that'll create pressure on that pin, that little phallus-shaped thing, and it will rip off. And we do not like it when phalluses rip off on Brian Phillips RC. It's very scary. Okay, I'm gonna twist this. That's why we say props. Be careful. Whew. Okay, so you see how that is held tight, and this is now overspun. One thing you can do, take 2 or 3 fingers, hold very tight, and get your last little bit, and then look, nice and square at 90 degrees of the connection point. Pop the tip out, slide the tip back through, click it shut, slide on here, slide back. Do not engage the rubber to the end. You may actually slow down your connection or pop off if you do that. Okay, so slide it back just a hair so there's clearance and you still have that purchase. Elevator. Now you'll notice that's actually going backward too. I'll show you how to fix that next. So now that the thing is basically ready to fly, except it's totally not set up or tested, we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna move the plane stand. We should be done with that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stand lined up with the plane. I'm gonna slide all this crap over. By the way, if you guys want to buy any of these tools, check out our supplies. You cannot buy this amazing tool holster.
Nope.
But you can collect garbage and make one yourself.
Gotta have your own garbage for that.
I wish I had a link to it.
You can buy an e-bike. We have links to those. They come with great
that's right.
foam.
We'll make a link to it. It'll be to an e-bike. Okay, so this is how this works, guys. I either sit or stand at the end of the plane and I say, hey, I want to see if this thing's going to work. If I pull back on the elevator, is it going to go up? Oh no, it's crashing. Okay, how do we flip that? One of these says elevator. God, that is so
really
hard to read. Elevator. This is terrible.
That one. The second from the end, right?
I can't read it. Elevator. Okay, so I flipped it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Roll left, roll right. Now, how do you tell? If you're brand new to the hobby, I'm gonna just talk about this. Push this over, that should roll you this way. That means this wing is going to spoil the lift, and this wing is gonna increase the lift. Also, it's gonna deflect air. It's gonna increase drag coefficient, so it's gonna lift the wing. It's gonna increase, it's actually gonna reduce the lift that's being created by spoiling, okay? But in more easy terms, it's gonna push the air up and it's gonna drop the wing down. Now, what happens when you roll an airplane is that there's more than just the roll that happens, and that's true. It's called coupling between one surface. It's a primary control surface is going to roll the plane. When you roll the plane, guess what happens? You're flying in a straight line. You've got a certain amount of laminar air that's flowing over here. When you roll, eventually, you're going to retard the lift and you're going to increase, and it's going to yaw the airplane. That's called adverse yaw, even though it's not really a thing in aeronautics. Adverse yaw is what we talk about a lot. You sometimes need to use the rudder to then coordinate your turn. So that rudder is going to point the nose down. Why do you want the nose to point down? Otherwise, you're just going to tip and you just keep flying and you'll just spin like this, right? Well, but I wanted to turn, Brian. Well, then you have to yaw the plane a little bit too. But as you know, gravity is going to act on the plane. And as you roll, you're gonna lose some lift here and it's gonna tend to yaw a little bit anyway, okay? So a lot of people fly like that. Don't fly like that. Don't just bank and yank. Bank and yank is fine if it's a bank and yank plane. You're gonna induce movement with your elevator. You're gonna point the plane with your ailerons, and then you're gonna follow through with your rudder, okay? So when you're flying a full-scale airplane, you're gonna tip the plane, you're gonna tip the plane this way, and then you're gonna pull back on the elevator, and it's gonna induce the turn, and you're gonna watch the rate in a little bubble, a sight bubble, and it's gonna tell you how fast you're turning, and then it's gonna eventually, you're gonna arrive at your heading, and you're gonna arrest the turn by taking out the roll, and then you're gonna let off the elevator, okay? In RC, it's a little simpler than that. You look at the plane, you see where it's going. Okay, it's flying like this. Okay, I don't wanna turn left. Well, you could turn left with a little bit of rudder. It's gonna point the plane, but it's gonna make kind of a flat turn. Well, when you do that, guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna speed up this wing compared to that wing, and it's going to make this wing lift and that wing drop. Okay, so you're gonna have a little bit of roll that's induced. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little. That's also called coupling. Okay, roll left, roll right. Elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right. The easiest way to test is like this. You can see all the surfaces from the angle that you wanna see it. Okay, yaw left, yaw right. Now let's look at the nose gear too. If I wanted to turn left, if I pull this to the left, is it gonna go left? Yes, it will. It's gonna go right. Now, if that were going the wrong direction and this were going the right direction, you might be in a little bit of trouble because they're mechanically tied to the same servo. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to figure out like, why is that happening? And you might have to put the linkage on the same side. Okay, now that's not gonna happen on a plane like this because that is something they get right at the factory, okay? Now the elevator up, that means it goes up, that means it goes down. Now we're in stabilizer off, so let's turn on the stabilizer and see if it's correcting the correct direction. By the way, this rudder is not square, okay? I feel like there's quite a little bit of resistance here. You know what?
Because it looks better now when you stopped it than the first time when you stopped it.
That's right, and I can tell it's getting bound up a little bit in that shaft. There's something you can do to help resolve that. You don't have to absolutely do this, but I can tell that it's pressing on here really hard, okay? So what needs to happen is this needs to be out just a hair. Well, if you come out here a ways, not a long ways, and you take and bite this, and you give it a little half twist, look at that. It just took all that pressure off of that. Still sounds like an animal dying, but it's returning to neutral,
yeah.
except it's not neutral because we never really had it relaxed enough to go neutral, okay? So I'm gonna pop this off and we'll fix that. Now you could also unscrew that screw inside, but since everything's already assembled, I wanna do this and get that square. So I'm gonna hold this, I'm gonna torque it in, but you see it's wanting to spin, so what I do is I grab it here, like this. By the way, I'm gonna turn off the stabilizer so it doesn't jump while we're doing this. I'm gonna hold this with the teeth. I'm gonna give it, oh good Lord, I'm really having to hold that sucker. There we go, broke it free for the first time. Sometimes that's a little hard. That's 1/2 turn. That's probably gonna be pretty dang close, but you see how it's at a weird angle? We talked about that earlier. You don't wanna break off that foul-shaped tip. Okay, holding tight, I'm gonna just go back just a hair. Now that's nice and square, right? So then we'll go up, we'll go back down, we'll snap it shut, we'll slide this back. And as you can see, our rudder is lined up dang near perfect, okay? Look at the seam on the top. That seam is not glued together, by the way, that's molded, and that's got to do with the mold and the way it releases from the mold. But the body is actually, like this is probably built with 1/2, and then, yeah, you can see where the seam jumps around here and goes down that length, okay? So this is part of the left half, and then the right half is absent vertical stabilizer, okay? All right, so elevator is good, aileron's good, rudder's good, and we have a better return to and centered position. Right, so stabilizer. Let's talk about the stabilizer. What does the stabilizer do? The stabilizer, now that you have all the surfaces moving in the right direction, I trust this because I have my throttle stick down, and so I'm comfortable doing this. Look at the rudder. As I sweep that way, it's gonna go against, it's gonna try to resist. It's gonna try to resist. I'll show you from my point of view next. It's resisting. Now, when I go up and down, the elevator goes the direction to resist my impact. Now I'm gonna watch this aileron and then we'll watch this next, but they are tied together. They should do equal and opposite output. When I roll, it goes up. When I roll down, it goes down. Now I'm gonna watch this. When I roll up, I see it go up. When I roll down, I see it go up. If you can't see, you can feel up, down, up. Now, camera crew is gonna give me the camera and I'll show you guys first person how this looks. Okay, so looking at the rudder, as I roll, you can see it's trying to resist this roll. Now, when I yaw, it's trying to resist this yaw. I apologize for the wrong terminology. Now I'm gonna watch this aileron. As I go up, it goes up. As I go down, it goes down. As I go up, it goes up, and so on and so forth. Same thing here. Up, it goes up. Down, it goes down. Now, elevator. The elevator's also doing the same thing. So when I pitch the plane violently up, it resists. When I pitch violently down, when I pitch up, it tries to resist. How do you know it's resisting enough? You have to fly it to see. Now, fortunately for you, the Reflex has already been tuned at the factory to help resist the impacts on this plane with this size aileron and this type of response and this type of sport design, okay? So they've already worked it out. You don't have to do that. Now, normally we would be setting up a radio from scratch. And a lot of these planes, we have radios installed, like the Avanti. The Avanti is a beautiful 80mm jet. We set up the radio system from scratch using AS3X plus a new offering from Spectrum, and very, very good performance, also quite a bit more expensive. I would not recommend a plug and fly to a brand new RC enthusiast because it's just too much in the first couple of planes. Get one that's either bind and fly or ready to fly, and preferably ready to fly. See if it's for you.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. If it's for you, that stuff is better, and know it now. But understand in your heart that you need help to get started. It's not supposed to be a slight. We're gonna help you get there on Brian Phillips RC. We'll show you step by step by step by step by step. And it doesn't matter if there's 400 steps. We'll show you 400. Because that's what it takes to get most people started. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna learn, and then you're gonna receive information, and then you're gonna build on it, and you're gonna build on it, and you're gonna build on it, and soon enough, you're gonna be like, I don't need that annoying guy anymore.
Right.
And hopefully there'll be 50 people that replace your position. And that's how we grow our audience, and that's how you can help support us, okay? So as you advance past the Ranger is a great beginner plane. There's other great beginner planes, by the way. We're not saying this is the fastest, bestest, cheapest. If you want fastest, bestest, cheapest, there's a million other channels that are quicker and more to the point than Brian Phillips RC. We show you how to really do it, and we don't use butter knives.
And this was the plane, the V1, the yellow one that we had, that probably was the turning point for our oldest in his learning to fly.
Yep.
This was it.
And he loves flying airplanes, and he's getting pretty good at it. And it's cool to see a kid learn to fly, because learning to fly is hard. It is not instant gratification.
No.
You have to practice. And kids nowadays are like, wow, that app was fun. I want another one now.
Well, and they're used to.
They download it, it's done.
Yeah,
It's
and they
20 minutes
crash
later.
and they hit reset and it goes back to and start over.
Flying again.
Like,
That's
this
not
is
what
the
happens
way
in
it
real
goes.
life. You have to go crawl in a tree 70 feet up and get it out.
Yeah.
We'll also show you that on Brian Phillips RC, because at the end of the day, part of the experience is failure. Failure is embarrassing, but on the other hand, it helps to reinforce the fact that you are human and you will fail. Because I am also human and I fail, and I show you exactly what it looks like to fail. And get it out of a 75-foot tall tree, not exaggerating, okay? In a 60-foot deep ditch. Mother Nature did the tip. But we were really close to getting it. Okay, if we wouldn't have been so busy at work that week, we probably would have gotten it. So anyway, guys, this plane is awesome. Let's see what auto leveling looks like so we can test it. In auto leveling, as you can see, nothing really changes except watch this. Look at the maximum output. This is a reflex, okay? When you come out of that mode, it doesn't really change, okay? If this was a Spectrum piece of equipment, if you were using DSMX and AS3X and SAFE, that's what they offer, same kind of solution. AS3X would be the stabilizer, artificial 3-axis stabilization, and SAFE, sensor assisted flight envelope, and then off, we usually set it off, you'd have the same thing you have here. But it costs a little bit more, and it's better. It's more refined, and it's user modifiable, which is bad when you're new, because you don't want to get in there and modify things wrong and get a false sense of security, and you also don't want to get in there and set them up wrong and crash.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're going to help you not do that. So, listen, auto leveling is on. What's going to happen? Well, let's say that you let go of the 6. When you're a brand new pilot, you're like, wow, all I got to do is just take this awesome P-51. Yes, this does have auto leveling. It's flying along. You let go of the sticks, and what's it do? Oh, why is it flipping over and blowing up in a million pieces? Because planes that don't have auto leveling, this one does, and stabilization will get pushed by every wind of desire and gravity, and it's going to end up looking like that, okay? Yes, that prop did just pop off, and it will pop back on. Yes, we did review this thing. It's actually quite good. And yes, that is a nice concept. I kind of wish they would do it on some of the bigger planes, but they just tend to break. And these are not very sophisticated ones, but it's nice because I can throw it across the room and not feel bad, okay? I wouldn't do that to this, even though this is pretty robust and pretty strong and pretty forgiving, but it's not gonna do what I just did, okay?
No.
Auto leveling, however, when I turn it on, when I let go of the sticks, instead of going, oh my gosh, everybody died, big explosion. It just goes, until you tell it to turn, no. You see what I'm saying? Just because it auto levels doesn't mean it won't hit your wall in your living room.
Doesn't fly itself.
Or tree. Now, if the wind pushes this off course, it's gonna also stabilize by correcting just like what we tested. Just like what we tested. The only difference is it's gonna hold the elevator correction until such a time as the correction is completed, AKA your flying level. Look at the aileron, watch this. When I roll this plane, it's still trying to resist. It's not just like the stabilizer where it resists until that impact stops, because I'm not trying to actively roll this, but it's also not unrolling from the rolled condition. Now that it's out of the rolled condition, it's level. Watch this, easiest way to test, find upside down. It's finding the quickest route to flip back over. Now, also, same thing, look at the elevator. You're pointed down in a death spiral of hell. Look, the elevator's saying, no, super you gravity, okay? Now let's say you're climbing, okay? Guess what? It's going to attempt to level the plane. That is assuming that as a pilot, you haven't said something otherwise, like this. I want it to do whatever that thing does. Look, watch. It's gonna work, the stabilizer's still gonna work a little bit, but guess what? There is a limit, okay? So this is called limited bank angles and roll and pitch, right? So watch this. I'm giving it command to roll. Which way am I rolling? I must have been rolling the wrong way. That's where it's gonna stop, guys, because look, I'm holding the stick all the way over. which should roll the plane this way. And it's gonna roll until it gets there. That's gonna be like, no more soup for you, Brian. Okay, now I'm gonna do the other side. No more soup for you, Brian. Now look at the elevator. Full up elevator. No more soup for you, Brian. You don't get to flip upside down. Let go, push the elevator down. No more soup for you. That's as steep as you can go down. And you're like, but what if I want to go upside down? You got to shut off auto leveling and go into stabilized mode. And then you can go up like this, regardless of the condition you're in. That elevator is going to be trying to go like that, okay? Let go of the sticks and it comes back, and then it just stabilizes the aircraft against environmental impact as opposed to you impact, okay? So hopefully we have helped you to understand what a stabilizer is and does, and why it's spatially aware, and why it matters that it's lined up with the axis of the plane. Because if it's lined up like this, then even though the yaw axis will be fine, guess what? The roll axis is gonna be wonky as heck. That's not good. You don't want wonky. So make sure your receiver is comfortably located. It doesn't have to be glued, but we glued ours because it was convenient. And secondly, more importantly, make sure your reflex isn't mounted like that. If it's mounted like that, it is gonna wonk your flight up. Because when you're at a 45-degree angle, which ours was not quite that bad, it was probably a 15-degree angle, that means that your elevator output is gonna be at the wrong time, and your roll axis is gonna probably be at the wrong time, so it's gonna be wonky when it corrects, okay? Don't believe me? Take your reflex and kick it at an angle. Go to 45 degrees and see how wonk it gets. It'll be very wonky. All right, so mode 2 transmitter, this gives us throttle. Okay, this yaws the plane, gives it sort of a flat turn. It's gonna induce a little bit of a roll just because of the nature of flight. And then this rolls your aircraft, this pitches your aircraft. All three primary surfaces, or control surface sets in this case, because you have an aileron set, you have an elevator, and you have a singular rudder, as well as the steerable nose gear. So that's what we call a 4-channel plane. If it was 5 channels, it would either have retracts, or it would more specifically usually have flaps. Flaps are inboard here, and they go down only, and they help to not only change the shape of the wing, which helps to induce drag, increase drag, and reduce the stall speed. And the other thing that happens is it will balloon your plane, which is not good. So we counter it with with elevator, and then it will allow the plane to pitch down without picking up speed because you've changed the shape of the wing, okay? That's handy when you're a pilot looking out a window over your cowl on your real airplane. Because like, okay, the engine cowl's here. How am I supposed to see the runway down there? I can't. So we turn on the flaps, and guess what? You can pitch down and you get to see the runway better. And then you fly to it, because guess what? When you fly downhill, what generally happens? You go faster, because like you're picking up speed. Gravity is working with your throttle. So you back off throttle and you increase drag. You put those flaps down and then you pitch down. You can fly downhill and you can slow the plane down as you approach and land on the runway. So if nobody ever explained it, I just explained it, but guess what? You don't have them, which is really sad, because flaps are awesome and they're really fun, but you don't need them to fly this plane, okay? And we'll show you how we slow down a plane. We do what's called a slip. So we will roll the plane, and then we will induce a contrary yaw. And what happens is you use the body of the aircraft to roll and slide and slow down. That's called a slip. Okay, it's hard to do. You don't have to do it, just land a little faster. Or wait longer and have a longer final. So you can bleed off speed by having your throttle off or low. In fact, low throttle, as I'll demonstrate here, creates a plane that is actually a disc of material, and that creates drag. And you're probably thinking, what? A spinning prop that's producing thrust at neutral, sitting still, does not produce drag. Yes, it does. And it produces drag the size of the overall plane that it touches. not just the size of the prop. And what happens is, that's called tractoring a prop, by the way. And they will tractor by getting pushed in the wind if there's not active braking on the motor. Okay, that's where it electronically tries to hold in one position. That's braking. The braking, you would hear a different tone at startup if braking was on. Also, you wouldn't be able to idle or tractor that prop. I like to actively tractor it like this. Let's say you're flying at 15 miles an hour, and that's the throttle setting it takes for 15 miles an hour. If you go below that, what happens? Your plane either slows down or you induce drag. So that's another way you can slow down to help get you stopped. So here on Brian Phillips RC, we left literally no stone unturned, but we're not going into this radio because I don't really care to sell this radio to you, because I wouldn't use that radio except that it happens to come in a ready to fly. Now, is there anything inherently wrong with a FlySky radio? No, they're inexpensive. They do the job, and that's pretty cool. And that's one of the reasons why you can get these planes as a plug and fly. At some point, you could put your own receiver in there. But if you get a stabilized receiver, and I'll just grab one to give you an example. If you get a stabilized receiver like an AR 630, which would be pretty cheap, I'll just show you a really nice one. This would be an AR 637T. It's gonna have telemetry and stabilizer, auto leveling, all the things that you have in here, except it all is in one package. You would also have battery telemetry, so you know when your battery is dead, okay? If you got this as a plug and fly, or you get this as a ready to fly and you say, you know what, I'm ready to progress to the next stage where I get myself a programmable transmitter, like this NX10 for instance, or maybe this NX7E. This has 20 channels, that has 14. Don't be confused by the model numbers. They just did a software update, a firmware update in this case, that allows us to use expanded channels, okay? And I updated the firmware on this, which you can see right there, V3.1.3. By the time you're watching this, that might be updated again. This will support many channels beyond the pluggable channels. That's one of the big drawbacks to this ready to fly system. We have access to 20 channels, which will give us all sorts of mixing and controls above the pluggables. And we have 6 ready to go. Well, guess what you have? 1 control surface, 2 control surfaces, 3, 4, 5 for throttle, and then potentially 6 for the steerable nose gear. So you could actually set up flaperons if you want, if you went to something like this. Now you could use a 630, it's a lot cheaper, or 631, which would be a little bit different pin configuration, and whether or not it's got an antenna, but I think it's considerably cheaper than this, okay? You could use that, take out the flight controller, and then you could do flaperons where you separate that Y cable, becomes 2 individual cables. You set up your wing type in this. You can set mix so that when the flaperons, the ailerons that act also as flaps, or as spoilerons where they go up together and then continue to act as ailerons. We'll teach you all that stuff and much, much more on Brian Phillips RC. So if you guys are brand new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell for notifications because lots of new content comes out from this channel all the time. And if you're looking for help setting up a more sophisticated wing type, here's the trick of the day. Go to brianphillipsrc.com and sort by type, airplane type, or by manufacturer brand. If you know which brand it is, you can also find it that way. And that will link you back to the playlist here on YouTube so you can find exactly what you want to see for every single plane we've ever done, which is literally like 2,050 videos right now in 2024, okay? 10 years deep. That's a lot of video footage, okay? So that being said, this Ranger is a great beginner plane, even in ready to fly. But there will come a time where you're gonna say, I wanna progress to the next big move. You should master this before you jump into something like this. That is truth from Brian Phillips RC, who wants you to buy these things, and you can buy them from the links in the video description below, and you can help support our channel financially by buying those things. You win, we win, manufacturers win. Buy this thing, all set up. The only thing you have to provide is 4 AA's and a couple hours of your time to learn what you need to learn from a Brian Phillips RC video, okay? But when you're ready to progress to this, we will give you the exact same process we did on this, only we'll go through the entire radio setup as well, showing every single painstaking step. And yes, it sounds terrible because you just watched this and said, oh my goodness, how long of a video will that be? Probably longer, but you're gonna learn a lot more. And guess what? You can fire me as soon as you know how to do it without help. That might be 5 videos, it might be 50. Just depends on your style and your technical capabilities, and we are gonna get you from here to there. And you don't believe me now, but believe me, many people have believed me for years and gotten there, okay? So that's what we do on this channel. Unapologetically try to sell equipment that we love so that you guys can win, we can win, and the manufacturers that listen to us and do good things will also win. Drawbacks on this plane, complaints on this plane. Number one, no LEDs. That's a little bit of a bummer. I was hoping there'd be LEDs. Number two, the ready to fly configuration does leave some room for improvement in my opinion, okay? If there were a programmable transmitter in this system, you could make this plane perform even better than it already performs now, stock, out of the box. But on Brian Phillips RC, we have a pet peeve, and that is when people do lots of modifications to a stock plane and then try to sell it acting like it's stock somehow. That is a little bit off-putting to us. If you do that on YouTube, congratulations. Keep doing what you do. But we're gonna do it this way, which is we show it the way it comes out of the box, and then maybe we help you walk through a solution to a given problem. We're gonna show you the problems too, and that's where we come from, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God on Brian Phillips RC, because there's so many people on YouTube that just say, buy this because it's the next new thing. Okay, just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. Okay, that's the truth, and we'll help you guys to make that decision by using a wealth of knowledge that only one that's had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of planes can possess, because we have actually done it personally. And this is not all the planes, by the way. This is just what's upstairs. We have another 2,500 square feet of storage for airplanes. In fact, we're building a 60 by 100 building to store the airplanes. It's gonna be big and awesome, and we hope you'll watch. Because here on Brian Phillips RC, we also like to keep you up to speed on what we're doing to be insane RC and full-scale aviation enthusiasts here in the aerodrome that we've created. And as you can see, Mother Nature has said, no soup for you. It's dark. Why is it dark? Because we spent a lot of time investing in a future pilot, and his or her name is your name. Okay, so that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. Hopefully we answered all your questions, and probably some that you didn't even know to ask. And the truth is, there's a lot of that in this hobby. We can't cover every single thing. No matter how long the video is, there's gonna be something I miss, and that's why we have comments. Ask it in the comments below. Either I, myself, the camera crew, or one of our wonderful, supportive other audience members will help answer your questions. If you want to support us, the best thing you can do is smash the like button right now, click the bell for notifications while subscribing, and watch all the content we produce here on this channel. And a very, very close, if not first place, would be to buy amazing products that we review. You don't buy what sucks, and we don't ask you to buy what sucks. But guess what? If you're a 30-year veteran pilot, this is probably not what you're gonna buy. You might think it sucks because you probably have a much, much better offering. But the truth is, we have to review these things within the scope of what they do, okay? So don't think we're being shills because we promote a product that is for a beginner. I'm not a beginner, but I want beginners. Beginners are good. They feed the hobby what we need, which is more people doing it, okay? And we're gonna help you do that, okay? And we're doing our part.
About 10 minutes.
So, the camera crew is telling me to wrap things up, and I want to be done anyway, and we think you guys want to be done. But the other ways to support us is, like I said, buy the planes, buy the transmitters, batteries, things like that that we showcase. We'll have links in the video description. We'll probably have a link to this. Make sure you pick it in the right finish level, ready to fly or bind and fly, okay? Or plug and fly, rather. Plug and fly means you provide your own receiver. If you don't know how to do that, find another plane that's very similar to this, and you can watch that video and watch the full radio setup, okay? Because this doesn't have inboard flaps, just so you know, you can cut these with an X-Acto knife, and you can put another servo on each side, making sure that they go the same direction. You can put a Y cable and plug it into this very receiver and use that very switch to control those very flaps. But I wouldn't suggest it because you need some mixing that you would need to do in a programmable transmitter to get the elevator to also come down at the same rate. Inboard flaps work better than flaperons, in my opinion, unless they are full-length flaperons, and then there's really not a huge difference in performance, in my opinion, and from lots of experience. I put flaps on a lot of planes. Okay, flaps on this plane are glorious, by the way. I've done it on our yellow one, and they are awesome, okay? We did that on ours, right?
I can't remember.
Oh no, we did it on one that Esteban had. My friend Esteban.
Oh, I was gonna say, I
yeah,
think
so
our yellow one
we
had
put them on
flaps.
there, and no, we did not do a video of that, but we've done lots of videos of adding flaps years ago. Okay. Other ways, Patreon monthly support, YouTube monthly support by being a member, which we really encourage, and thanks so much if you're already one of our members. And then YouTube super thanks for one-time donations. But the best and most win-win-win would be to buy the planes, or buy that plane, or buy that plane, or whatever. I mean, there's so many to choose from. We don't want to put you in a box and say, oh, everybody needs this. Everybody needs the Avanti 80. Wrong. The people that want an Avanti 80 are not the people that want this, and the people that want this are not the people that want the Avanti 80.
That's a 90, isn't it?
The Avanti? Oh, it's a 90.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious, guys. I feel so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. That is a 90 millimeter EDF. And if you didn't know that, they size class by the size of the fan, which is 90 millimeters. Thank you for catching that, by the way. We have 80 millimeter Futura. We have an 80 millimeter BAE Hawk. Both awesome choices.
Yeah.
Both made by FMS. And if you ever want to see something better, you're like, you know, I think I'm past this.
Right.
Be past. Do the next thing. Keep growing. Keep succeeding. And we're going to help get you there on Brian Phillips RC. So thanks for watching. And don't forget to click the bell for notifications when you do subscribe. If you're brand new in the hobby, we will not leave you in the dust. I promise you. That's one thing we do that everybody else doesn't. We're going to bring you from the box to the air. Okay? From the chair to the air. All right, stay tuned. So much more coming right around the corner in that room. Lots of boxes waiting to unbox, build radio setup just for you. You can learn with us. You can fly with us. It's the best way to do this. Don't just watch, do it. Okay? Stay tuned. So much more right around the corner. Your wonderful host forgot something in all his blatherings. 50 to 60 millimeters, page 10. That's the center of gravity. The center of gravity is very important when you're a beginner. Use yourself some calipers. I'm going to go to 50 to 60. So here's 50. Okay. Close enough. Okay. I'm going to flip the plane over. I'm going to take and mark this if it needs marked. There, I just make a little bump. And then I'm going to come over here, same thing, right from the leading edge. I bumped it just a little bit, so I got to go back to 50. 50, and there it is. And then I'm going to just mark it right here. Okay. So then what I do is I come back with a marker and I just darken the hole a little bit so you can see it really good. It kind of goes to about where that tray is that they used to hold the connector rod, the wing joiner. Okay, and you can also tighten this down. By the way, this is one of the tools on our links if you're looking for this. Okay, so just go right there. And it's basically right in front of where the wing joiner is, or the connector. Okay, so now what you do to test your center of gravity is you get your battery in, you get everything set, okay? And then you flip this plane over and make sure your throttle is down, obviously. And you put your fingers on the holes. I'm gonna put it on the front hole first, and I'm gonna balance this a little bit tail heavy, and then I'll put them in the back hole. And then I'm gonna notice it's very, very balanced, okay? So the more tail heavy your plane is, the less likely you'll get it back in one piece. So what you can do is you can take your battery if you want to impact change, and you can just slip it forward. I'm going to take this voltage alarm, lift it up. I'm going to slide the battery all the way forward and just show you how big of an impact that makes. You have to have the canopy on because that will impact your center of gravity. So I'm on the back hole now. Remember, we were just barely balancing. Now we're balancing great. And on the front hole, we're still pretty much, you know, where we need to be. It's just balancing. But when I put my finger between the two holes, okay, right there and right there, we're feeling really good. It's balanced perfectly, and just show them how I'm doing that. I'm just balancing it on only my middle finger, and I can feel the holes with the pad of my fingers. That is a perfectly good center of gravity test, and that's how you do it, guys. If it's balanced, the thing will perform really well. If you're too tail heavy, the elevator will be too pitchy. It will be too pitch sensitive, and it will be unfun to fly. But it's hard to get off on CG bad enough to crash because of CG on this particular plane with this particular battery, because they've engineered it for beginners, and that's why you want to get this 1220 millimeter Ranger V2 from FMS. So stay tuned, guys. For real this time. It's over. So much more right around the corner from Brian Phillips RC. Thanks for watching.